Are you tired of sifting through endless health advice that promises quick fixes but delivers nothing but frustration? Welcome to the Anti-Macro Podcast, the go-to place for scientifically backed yet digestible health and fitness wisdom without the fads or gimmicks. Whether you're looking to ditch chronic dieting, optimize your hormone and gut health, or simply find balance in your wellness journey, you're in the right place. I'm Coach Diana Lee, your no-nonsense guide to transforming your health and mindset for the better. Each episode, I'll dive into topics ranging from nutrition basics to debunking common myths to cutting-edge functional health insights, sometimes featuring guest experts in the space. Get ready to learn, grow, and take actionable steps toward a healthier and happier you. So grab your favorite beverage, kick back, and let's dive in. Let's talk about accountability. When people think about their health journey, whether it's nutrition, training, recovery, or just showing up in some manner consistently, accountability is often the missing piece. And I don't mean accountability in the I need someone to babysit me kind of way. I mean accountability in the sense of creating awareness, building consistency, and having structures in place that actually support you following through on the things you already know you need to do. Most people start their health journey thinking, I should be able to do this on my own, right? You download an app like MyFitnessPal, you track your calories and macros, you've got a plan for the gym, and you're like, cool, I'm set. I'll just stick to this. And at first, it actually probably goes well. The motivation is high, you're logging everything, you're consistent, you're checking all of the boxes. But then real life starts to creep in. You skip logging a weekend here, you skip a couple days there, you miss a workout because work got busy. Suddenly that consistency that you had in the beginning is not so consistent anymore. And this is the point where people usually blame willpower. They think, I wasn't disciplined enough. I didn't have the motivation. I must be weak. But in reality, this isn't always a willpower problem. Most of the time, it's an accountability problem. Here's why. Even if you are logging your food every single day, if you're only ever looking at those numbers in isolation, like just focusing on that single day, you're missing the bigger picture. Progress in a health journey comes from looking at trends. Week to week, month to month, are you consistent over time? Or are your weekends canceling out your weekdays? Are you missing patterns that an outside perspective might catch? And sometimes when you're convinced that you're doing everything right, you actually need an outside eye to say, hey, here's what you're missing, because you can't always see it for yourself. That's what accountability does. It's not just about making sure that you do the task. It's about making sure the data, the habits, the routines that you're building are actually working for you. Let me give you a client story to show you what I mean. I worked with a client who was prescribed a GLP-1 agonist. And if you're familiar with those medications, we're talking about things like Ozempic, Wegovy, Zepbound, the big topic in health and nutrition right now. But one of the biggest side effects is the loss of hunger cues, mainly because they always claim that they reduce food noise, but to a degree that many people actually have a loss of their hunger entirely. You just don't feel hungry on a day-to-day basis. And that's how many people are managing to stick to extremely low calorie diets and lose all this weight. For my client, that meant that she often straight up forgot to eat. And here's the kicker, is that she hated tracking. She came into my coaching and it was hard for her to gain consistency with tracking because she kind of dreaded it. Even just taking a quick picture of her meals for a photo food journal felt like such a chore to her. And there was also a mindset component to it. She, in the back of her mind, was afraid of judgment in a way, whether it was judgment from herself or judgment from me, despite the fact she knew I wouldn't be judging her, but rather coaching her through it. But still, that perception of what food tracking meant for her really impacted her ability to follow through on the consistency of doing so. I also explained to her that tracking was not just for me as her coach, it was also for her. She needed to see her own patterns laid out in front of her. Because when you're not hungry, it's really easy to become nutrient deficient, especially protein. And when you're not getting enough protein, you risk muscle loss, osteoporosis, low energy, all things that can make your health spiral pretty quickly. So we started simple, 3 balanced meals a day, protein, carb, fat, and a veggie. By journaling those meals, she had accountability, and not just to me, but also to herself. And here's where it got powerful. The food journal became more than just a list of meals. It became a tool for connecting how she felt and how she was fueling her body. If she was exhausted or sore or her recovery felt off, we could look back and see that she hadn't eaten enough. The accountability created awareness. Now, eventually, she did take a break from coaching. And a few months later, when we caught up, she admitted that she was back to eating very little, skipping meals. She was starting to feel awful. Her joints hurt, her energy tanked, and she just generally felt unwell. And she told me, as much as I didn't love tracking, doing it with you made me follow through. And without that accountability, I fell right back into my old patterns. Now, that is the power of accountability. It's not about someone breathing down your neck. It's about shining a light on what's really happening so that way you can make changes that actually stick. So let's zoom out for a second here. Why does accountability even work in the first place? The first reason is that it combats forgetting. Health is a game of consistency, and consistency is hard to maintain when you don't have reminders. How many times have you planned to meal prep or told yourself that you would get to the gym, and then the week just kind of got away from you? Accountability keeps those things front and center. The second reason is that it builds awareness. Reporting habits forces reflection, even when you don't want it to. When you write down what you ate, or when you log your workouts, or when you check in with your sleep, you start noticing patterns. You start to realize, oh, every time I stay up late scrolling, I sleep like crap. Or every time I skip protein at lunch, I'm starving by dinner time. That reflection is where change happens. And the third reason is that it strengthens follow through. You're way more likely to stick to a plan if somebody else knows about it. This is why people often keep goals to themselves, because they want the option to quietly quit if it doesn't work out. But when you share it, whether it's with a coach or even just a friend, or even just by writing it down, you take quitting off the table. You've created a layer of commitment. So accountability isn't really about willpower. It's about having structures in place that keep you from forgetting, help you reflect, and make it harder to bail on yourself. Now, accountability comes in two forms, external and internal. Let's start with external. External accountability is what most people think of first. It's coaching, it's communities, it's workout partners, it's food journals you share with somebody else. And there are endless ways to set this up. Maybe you sign up for a group fitness class. You put your name on the schedule, you've committed to a time, and now you feel obligated to show up. Once they're there, you've got a coach guiding you and a whole room of people working alongside you. And if you've ever been to group fitness, you know that you push yourself harder when you're with others than you ever would on your own. Or maybe it's something as simple as enlisting a friend. I had a friend who needed to do her physical therapy exercises every day. She asked me to text her daily to check in. At first, she needed that every single day. But over time, we were able to move to weekly check-ins. And then eventually, she didn't need me at all because she had built that habit. And then, of course, there's coaching. And I think people will often misunderstand coaching as this paid accountability. Like, I'm paying someone to keep me on track. But coaching is so much more than that. Because accountability isn't just about checking the box, it's about digging deeper. I'll give you an example. I have a client who struggles to make it to the gym. Every week, she'd tell me all the reasons why she didn't go. And when we really looked at them, a lot of those reasons were just excuses. And I'm not saying this. She was the one who said it. And for this particular client, there's a lot of shame behind missing the mark on things. She's the very type A overachiever. She wants to show up for herself, but she's nervous too sometimes. And when she fails, she's scared to say so. But of course, we've cultivated a coaching relationship in which I encourage her to share where she's struggling, knowing that it's not coming from a place of judgment, knowing that what we're aiming to do is to dig deeper for her. And we don't want to enlist guilt or shame because that's not the real way to create lasting change. But instead, we want to figure out why these excuses trump her goals. So together, we're going about evaluating her reasons for not making to the gym from a place of curiosity. We're looking at her reasons together, separating the real barriers, because some of these are truly, genuinely real barriers, but separating them from the excuses. And then we figure out how to actually overcome them. That process is removing the shame from it because she doesn't feel like she's letting me down, but instead we're using this as an opportunity to learn. And that's the key, is it's accountability without shame. especially for people with that type A high achiever personality. If you're somebody who already holds yourself to a very high standard, the last thing that you need is more guilt. What you need is curiosity, accountability that helps you explore why you didn't follow through so you can build strategies that actually work. Now, the pitfalls of external accountability is that if you rely on it too much, what happens when it's gone? Case in point with my client that I talked about earlier, who, when she stopped working with me, she no longer had the accountability to check in with her food journal. And as a result, she fell off from her eating. Maybe you stopped going to your group class and you now don't have the accountability of others around you pushing you, or the accountability of scheduling a class and just showing up. Maybe your friend stops checking in on you because life happens. They get busy and this becomes a lower priority for them, despite the fact that it's still a high priority for you. Suddenly, your habits fall apart. Or accountability might at this point get tangled up with shame. Maybe you miss a workout and now you feel like it's a failure and you're afraid to tell somebody about that failure because you're afraid to get judged, even if that judgment is really just coming from you. And then there's perfectionism. I've had clients tell me that if I can't make it to the gym 4 or 5 times a week, then there's no point in going at all. Accountability can't be about setting these impossible standards. Sometimes showing up twice a week consistently is better than aiming for 5 and doing absolutely none. Redefining success is truly part of this process. Which brings us now to internal accountability. Because at the end of the day, external accountability is a bridge. It gets you started, but the destination is internal accountability because this is what keeps you going. Internal accountability is self-awareness, values, routines, and personal responsibility. Self-awareness is knowing your defaults. Like if you don't meal prep, you know that you're going to grab a convenience food. That awareness holds you accountable to prepping. Values are what keeps you aligned. If you value drinking multiple times a week, then that's going to clash with your health goals. So as a result, you're going to have to change your values as you go through your health journey. But I don't think it's fair to say that we have to change all of our values, because if our health journey moves so far away from our core values that we truly hold dear, then that's not going to really set us up for lasting success either. Instead, we're going to have to figure out which values are sabotaging us and need to change, and which ones could be incorporated within our journey and actually help us move forward. So maybe one of your other values is that you go out once a week for a meal with your partner. That is quality time spent together. It is around something that you enjoy doing together, which is maybe eating out. Maybe it gives you a little bit of a break from the monotony of the week and any food that you have meal prepped and been eating consistently all week. This is a really valuable thing to you. And there are ways that we could, let's say, incorporate that into your health journey and make room for it and align it with your goals. So that way we can still hold true to this value while still also achieving your goals. This is how we create sustainability. Routines are what make habits automatic. The fewer decisions that you have to make, the better. So think of it this way. If you've been driving to work for the last 10 years, sometimes you might realize that on your commute while you're driving, you're barely even paying attention. And then all of a sudden you just end up in your work parking lot and you're not really sure how you got there. This is kind of what we want in our health journey. We want it to be so automatic that we don't have to give it such heavy thought to get from point A to point B. The more that we automate our health practices, the easier it is to follow through on them because there's not all this decision making that goes into actually taking action. And finally, personal responsibility. Look, let's get real here. At the end of the day, you are an adult. Not every part of a health journey is going to be fun. You're not going to necessarily want to do everything. Sometimes it's going to be hard and you're going to have to do things that are better for you to do, but you'd rather be doing something else. Some things are tedious. Some things are just inconvenient. But accountability also means taking responsibility and doing it anyway, because you know that it's the right thing to do for your body and that it's going to help you feel good. So what does accountability look like in practice? So inside my coaching, we use food journaling through an app that I connect with my clients on called EverFit. Clients upload pictures of their meals and I review them each week. I can comment, give feedback, and if they struggle, we dig into why. We also use the hand portion method. So, for specific clients who have goals like weight loss or body composition, they will track their portions on a daily basis. And then each week during our check ins, we look at these daily portions across the entire week and we look at where we're averaging so we can evaluate the overall consistency on a weekly basis. Did they hit their targets? If not, then why not? And if they did, but the results weren't coming, then this is when we know that we have to troubleshoot with the data. Then we also have weekly check-ins. These weekly check-ins do absolutely include very short form answers like how many hours did you sleep and what workouts did you complete? But more importantly, I also incorporate a lot of reflection-based questions. So if you didn't get 7 to 8 hours of sleep, what impacted your sleep? If you were having a hard time this week, what is actually contributing to your stress and how are you coping with it? What did you do well this week? Because we have to be able to highlight where our wins are along the way, because those wins hold lessons as well. The more we do well and the more we identify what exactly is propping us up for success, the more we can create this into a repeatable process. But then also, of course, where did you struggle? Because the struggle is where a lot of the coaching happens. The obstacles that get in the way, that throw us off balance, this is where we need to figure out, okay, how do we approach these obstacles better in the future? Now, for me as a coach, this is all valuable information. But for my clients, it's just as powerful. These reflection questions can be a form of self-coaching because while my clients are filling out their weekly check-in, they're writing all of this out and they're reflecting on what's going on. In a lot of cases, they can actually realize things that they've maybe never seen before because they are actually taking the time to write down their reflections. Now, if you're not in some form of coaching, you can still create accountability for yourself. Apps are a great example. One that I've personally started using recently is called Finch. It's this little penguin-like creature called a burb that you get to take care of. And every time you complete a habit, like for me, it looks like daily stretching or meditation or drinking a minimum amount of water, then you get points or what they call like rainbow coins. And you can use these points to buy your little burb outfits or decorate its home and do fun things within the app. And yes, I know that it sounds silly, but I swear it works for me because it gamifies accountability. It makes you think twice before skipping the habit because now it's tied to something outside of yourself. You can do what my friend did and ask a friend. Tell them about a habit that you want to commit to and ask them to check in. I've had people do this for everything from nutrition to physical therapy exercises. And what's cool is that eventually, once you build that habit, maybe you don't need to enlist that friend anymore for their help. You can also find a community. As I mentioned before, group fitness is a perfect example. You sign up for a class, you've basically raised your hand to show up. The program is already laid out for you, so you don't have to think of what you're doing when you walk into the gym. And you have a coach guiding you. You have people alongside you pushing you. And most people I know push themselves harder in a group than they ever do on their own because working out side by side with somebody holds them accountable. And finally, you can also do your own weekly check-ins. Don't just track what you did on a day-to-day basis. Take that data at the end of the week and then reflect on it. How did food make you feel? Where did you struggle and why did you struggle? And how can you approach that situation differently the next time it crops up? Where did you succeed and how can you repeat this? The point is not to come from a place of judgment, shame, or guilt, but to come from a place of curiosity. And this is where we circle back to building self-accountability. Because external accountability is great for getting started, but the real transformation happens when you learn to hold yourself accountable. That might look like journaling not just what you ate, but how you felt, anchoring your goals to your values so that they matter deeply to you, creating small rituals like a weekly review where you reflect on your habits, and reframing accountability so that it's not about pointing out failures, but also about celebrating your wins. That's the difference between accountability as punishment and accountability in an empowered sense. So let's make this practical now. Here are a few simple ways that you can implement accountability right now. Try this. Write down your dinners every single night this week. No judgment, no calorie counting, just creating awareness around what you're having. Or maybe tell a friend one habit that you're committing to and then ask them to do a check-in with you. And at the end of the week, I want you to look at some of your habits and just spend 5 minutes reflecting on them, right? Again, what went well? Where did you struggle? And what can you learn from it? Now let's level up this accountability. Send me the habit that you want to work on this week. DM it to me on Instagram at Coach Dinah Lee or email me at coachdinahlee@gmail.com. This way, we can create that external accountability together. That's a wrap for this episode, and I will catch you next time. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Anti-Macro Podcast. I hope you found today's insights valuable and actionable for your own wellness journey. Remember, true transformation comes from consistent, intentional steps forward. If you enjoyed today's episode and want to stay updated on all things health and fitness, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss a new episode. I release fresh content bi-weekly every Wednesday to keep you inspired and informed. And hey, if you loved what you heard, I'd be thrilled if you could take a moment to share this podcast with a friend or family member who might benefit from it. By sharing it with others, you're helping them on their wellness journey too. Keep striving for progress, not perfection, and I'll catch you next time.